This is the Ask Faleskini podcast, where the modern economy is discussed from a skeptic's perspective. Mr. Faleskini helps you distinguish what is sustainable in our economy and what isn't. Not everything that glitters is gold, and not all mud is dirty. The podcaster Mr. Faleskini provides no-nonsense advice. He had it all, lost it all, went bankrupt multiple times, and is now attempting to come back from zero with sustainable growth. There are numerous coaches and preachers on the internet that preach about positive thinking and how life is all roses if you just care to see it that way. Well, Mr. Faleskini is definitely not one of them. We recommend you ask Faleskini to keep it real. He discusses the darker side of the current economic reality, the side that's more important for your personal and business finance. His first intention is to help you keep what you already have. Not to be a complete party pooper, Mr. Faleskini will also hint at the earning opportunities in the economy today. In order to please the almighty algorithm, please like, share, and subscribe. And now it's time to start taking notes. The mic goes to the podcaster, the one and only Mr. Faleskini.
Welcome to the Ask Faleskini podcast with a guest. I'm proud to present Kari Schwear from Greater Richmond region. Kari helps people love their life and themselves while disrupting their self-sabotaging behavior so they can finally enjoy life to the fullest. Now, not just someday when they retire or buy a vacation house. Kari helps them move out of gray areas, keeping them stuck, and discover the true zest of fulfillment and purpose they're desperately seeking. Kari is an executive lifestyle coach. She believes that having a daily routine is critical. Without one, we easily fall prey to whatever comes our way through the day. Kari has also Wall Street Journal #1 bestseller book, Limitless. Kari, please tell us more about yourself. What is your story?
Oh, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I love that. I am a woman who have gone through the ringer in life. I've been in many gray areas of my life, which we'll talk about what it means to be in a gray area. And I have come out the other side, no longer living in the gray, but living a life in what I refer to as vivid technicolor and beautiful color and just thriving and loving my life. And that's what I like to provide for others, is for them to feel that same way and that it is possible. Yeah.
How did you start your career as an executive coach? How did that came about?
It was all by accident, which is perfect, right? So I've had 7 careers. This is my 7th. And it started with my drinking days. I was a gray area drinker, and I'll give you the definition of what that is. It is someone who is drinking more than socially, but not severely abusing alcohol. It's somebody who is in that in-between gray space. So there's this huge wide gray area. About 50% of the population that consumes alcohol may be in this gray area. So it's a huge number of drinkers. And I found myself in the gray area for a long time. And after I quit drinking in 2016, after going the traditional route of AA and realizing that that wasn't a good fit for me, it was a great program, but not a good fit for me as a gray area drinker. What I needed was discovery, not recovery. And after leaving the program, working with a coach, he became my catalyst of change. And fast forward a couple years later, I was going to start something at my church. It didn't work out. And from the church saying no to me, which I'm so grateful for now, I decided I don't need the church. I can start something on my own. And that is how I became a coach. And of course, after getting certifications and all the things needed to become a good coach and starting my own business and getting paying clients and continuing my education, here we are today, 5 years later, and I love what I do. I love the impact that I get to create with my clients and help them fall in love with their life again and get out of their own gray areas that they have, whether that's with their health and their relationships with their spouse. A lot of my clients are $1 million business owners. They have a 7-figure business and they are been killing themselves to build up this business, and it's cost them everything that they've worked so hard for. It's costing them their life, their health, their family, their spouse, their kids. It's creating this crumble effect around them, and they're trying desperately to save onto it. And they're in this gray area. So I help them move out of those gray areas, whether it is with drinking, whether it is with their habits, and we find new ways for them to really appreciate their life again.
How would you say how much it's our own fault to get into the gray area, and how much is the environment?
Oh, yes, that's a really good question. So a lot, wow, that's great. First of all, no one's ever asked me that question. It's an important one because your environment, who you are surrounding yourself with, the things that you do on a daily basis, your habits play a huge part in who you are. The most important piece of the puzzle of who we believe we are, our own identity, drives those behaviors. So if you're in a position where you've worked so hard to get to the accomplishments that you have, and you focus all your time on your work because that fills your own self-worth, and you've let go of some of the important things like your family and your health, and you've put all of your identity in that success, then that's going to show up in the way that you behave and the way that you believe about yourself. So your environment has a huge part in this, because also like who you hang out with, your friends. There's a great saying by Jim Rohn: you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that's so very true, because you can look at those people that you are surrounding yourself with, and you can see how it's influenced your life, your behaviors, your identity. Even though we ebb and flow through our life and we change friends, we can change positions in life, and we can move some of those people around. But the people that you hang with right now and the environment in which you live plays a huge part of not only your internal peace, but also how you're showing up for yourself and those that you love. So it plays a huge part.
Okay. I know that you have a successful Facebook group that is also, let's say, a self-help book. I would like to know your take on, is it possible to get the 5 virtual friends that will help you elevate your being?
Yes, absolutely. So, let's talk about drinking for a moment. So the Facebook you were referencing that I have is called Question the Drink. And that's part of that's a program that I offer. It's also part of my business. So Question the Drink is all about questioning what alcohol is doing for you or what it's not doing for you. It's not called Quit the Drink. It's called Question the Drink for a reason. That's what I'm asking people to do, is question the reason why they're drinking. But we can question anything into our life. Question your relationship, question your health, question your motives, question your intention. Like, we can question everything that we're doing in life. But with Question the Drink, if we're focusing on drinking, someone who is drinking too much, for example, like I was, a lot of it has to do with who are you hanging with, like to your point. So, for example, a lot of my friends, when I was drinking, I'm no longer hanging with them anymore. It's not because I don't love them or not that I don't have respect for them. It's just that we're in a different place. The alcohol was such a big piece of the glue that kept us together. This is also true of relationships, that if your partner is a heavy drinker, and that's been the one thing that you've had in common for a very long time, when you make the decision to eliminate alcohol in your life, that is going to affect who you are spending the most time with, because you can't be as successful in changing your own behaviors and being around the same environment and the same people that are not catching up to what your new decision has been for your life. So there has to be a shift in those people. Like, you don't always have to give up the friendship, but there are some ways that you can find somebody else that's feeling the same way as you, that has the same interests as you, that you want to shift towards, and that can help build you up and edify you. So in the Facebook group, for example, and in my Question the Drink for 30, which is a 30-day group program, they find those like-minded people, and they've built long-lasting relationships because of it, because they latched on to somebody else who's in the same position as them, who wants to have a beautiful life that's full and rich with their life and get out of this gray area. And once they see that there's other like-minded individuals just like themselves, they latch onto those friendships. And so it's a big piece of the puzzle, and it's a big piece of the success for long-term success and creating new habits and a new identity.
Thank you. I have another question. Maybe I'm not from that area, but I know that the classical approach towards alcoholism is that the first stage is denial, and then you go into the admitting that you have a problem to face, and then you start working on the problem, and only then you solve your problem. I saw that you have developed this system that where you name the stages of the change, where you start with preparation, action, maintenance, and relapse.
Yes.
Could you explain this concept a bit, and how does this compare to the classical concept of denial, acknowledgement, and then working on the change?
Yes, it's not an or, it's an and it's called the trans-theoretical model of change. It's not something that I developed, but I use it in my business. But I do have my own model, which I will explain also. So the trans-theoretical model is about what there's 6 stages of change that we must go through, or not must, but we typically go through. And so the first stage is known as the pre-contemplation stage. That is the stage where you have this outwardly distanced knowing that something needs to change, but you're not ready for it. It's not something that you're really given it must a lot of consideration. It's just sitting out there in the distant future. Then we move into the contemplation stage. This is the stage where it's starting, those inner voices are really speaking to you. You know that something has to change at some point because you're not going to be able to continue living like this. This is when that belly of yours starts, whispering to you, that inner guidance system that we all have. And this is the stage that I really want people to pay attention to. This is like the questioning the drink phase, where they start to question, why are they doing this? Or questioning why they're staying in a broken marriage, or why they're staying in a career that no longer serves them, or why they continue to self-sabotage with bad behaviors like overeating, eating a lot of sugar, maybe distracting themselves with social media. What are those self-sabotaging behaviors that they continuously are doing that they know that they need to make a change? That's a contemplation stage. Once they move through that contemplation stage, they go into preparation. And preparation is where it really starts to turn the nozzle up a little bit, where we then start to take some inventory on how can I fix this problem? Who do I need to talk to? Where should I turn to? Let me gather the information. Let me look at it. Let me decide what the next step will be. That's a preparation stage. The next stage after that is the action stage. That's where you move into action. This is when you hire a coach, you go to AA meeting, that you decide you're going to meet with a trainer and work out at the gym, and you show up on the first day to start those workouts. This is the time that you take the action to maybe look for a new job or sell your business or whatever it is that you want to make that change. This is when you actually are making that action happen. And then we move into maintenance. And maintenance is just what it sounds like, right? It's like you're maintaining those changes, you're making good progress, and you're moving forward. You just keep going with what you've learned and you keep moving forward. The 6th stage is relapse. Not everybody hits relapse. For me personally, with my drinking, I never hit relapse. I quit drinking. I never looked back. I never picked up a drink again. There was no relapse. But if there is a relapse with any situation, you just move back to the action stage again, and you get right back into the game. So those are the 6 stages of change according to the trans-theoretical model of change. Yeah.
Okay. You also have a video on pleasing people, and you start with introduction that the people that please other people, they usually leave one person out of it, and that is themselves. Why is people pleasing so problematic for a person, for their development and for their well-being?
Well, a lot of times people will want to please others because it's the way for them to feel needed, important. It's a way to self-affirm. It's a way to feel like they're giving to others. And a lot of times they don't have a lot of self-love or self-confidence. And so there's in my world in which I operate and how I work with my clients is I start them with a really deep assessment. And it is based off numerous models, numerous assessments that are out there, but it's very unique and very specialized. And in this assessment, we are looking at significant cognitive, behavioral, and emotional traits. And when we combine all these traits together and we can see what makes up the person, we can see why they're wired and what drives them emotionally, and also where they're placing their attention on the cognitive levels. And we can see what their behavioral levels are. And so a lot of people that are coined the term people pleasers tend to be the ones that can't say no. They don't want to say no. They're worried about hurting someone's feelings. They're worried about not being accepted. They want to be of service to others at all costs. And this usually means they're giving up something of themselves to help please others. There's nothing wrong with wanting to please others and being of service. But when it starts to take away and strip away the very essence of who you are, and you're leaving scarred in the meantime, that's when it becomes a problem. So I'll give you an example of this because I like examples. I have a former client who is very much a people pleaser. She's in the accounting world and she was in a lifeless marriage. And she felt as though if she was to say something, she would harm the marriage, she would harm her husband. She didn't want to say no to the many clients that were coming to her and draining her, wringing her dry. She just kept saying yes. And eventually that caused her to have massive issues with her mental health. Her drinking had greatly increased, and she was feeling like a beaten down woman every single day. She didn't have a life. She worked really hard to build her business. She is a sole business owner, and she was feeling like she was being kicked to the curb every single day. Well, after working with me, what she realized was she was not able to stand up and use her voice and feel confident about who she was and what she needed. So we started to look at who in her life is draining her, who is stripping her from any energy. Once we started identifying those people and she was able to have some boundaries and containers around these people and saying no for the first time, then she started gaining confidence and things started to get better. She ended up firing 33 of her clients that were draining to her and that were causing her a lot of friction. She also went to her husband and told him unless he was able to straighten up and turn things around in the marriage, she was out. Guess what happened? He did. And their marriage has greatly improved. But it wasn't until she was able to use her voice. She stopped being that yes person all the time. She started learning the power of the word no, and she became okay with it. She became better than okay with it. She started to love herself and have self-respect. And when somebody can get to that place in their life, they feel as though they've gained back the power that they maybe once had, but they don't know what happened to it. And this is what causes someone to go into a lower stress level or a higher stress level, a lower emotional level, which is why they end up using alcohol or other self-sabotaging behaviors to be able to cope. So when we can remove some of the stress and we can remove some of the coping needs, and they can feel more fulfilled inside and have that internal peace, then they'll make better decisions for themselves and they'll want better habits to make that happen. And that's all part of the process that I help my clients with.
Would you say that there's more people pleasers in service industry than in other industries?
Probably just because of the type of intellect that they are. But I think there's a portion of all of this that don't want to hurt someone's feelings. we have a few intellects that I work with, and everybody's different, right? There's typically 9 of these intellects. And when we can see how they're wired and we can see what's driving them emotionally, this really, really pinpoints it and can help them tremendously. To know themselves is to lead themselves. So that's a term that is actually used by a company called Giant Worldwide, which I'm trained under as well. And to know yourself well, to the point where you know what your triggers are, you know what your weapons are that you can use, you know how you can be turned inside out, you know how you can be somebody who wants to speak but then feel like you can't, or sometimes you speak too much and then you regret how much you've said, or the stress that we have. All this plays a part in how we show up for ourselves, and more importantly, how others feel us. The reflection in the mirror is how others see us too. And really knowing that about yourself is huge. Once you know that information, you're able to really lead yourself in a higher way. And this is the work that I do. And I love it because it really helps hold up that mirror and say, this is what other people are feeling from you. And do you want that to continue? And so we make better choices. We make better decisions when we do that.
Okay. You mentioned earlier one of possible problems as a diet. Would you agree with my statement that when you go and start transforming yourself, the diet and the exercise are most important, or the best place to start with?
There's a lot of places to start. So, of course, food and exercise are crucial, because exercise releases a chemical in our brain, BDNF. It's brain, hold on, now I'm going to forget it. I'm going to mess this up. BDNF. I will figure it. I will tell you what it is. Brain-derived neurotropic factor. I think I butchered that a little bit, but it's called BDNF. When we exercise, it releases this chemical, and it's, if you can think of it as miracle grow for your brain, right? So we know when we exercise, it releases endorphins and feel good chemicals inside of our body. So when we do that, we actually feel strength and we feel powerful. We feel strong. Everybody who exercises on a regular basis knows this to be true. All these feel good hormones are released, right? Endorphins and so forth. Also with food to me is medicine. I look at food as not only just, fuel for our body, but also it nourishes us. It can really help fuel us in a way that is so good for our soul. When we eat junk food and we eat a lot of sugar and we are really diving into things that don't serve us well, this is when we can lower our levels emotionally. It also affects our mood tremendously. It obviously affects us health-wise. And if we're not healthy, we're not living, right? If we don't have our health, we have nothing. So I'm a firm believer in eating clean, exercising, taking care of our mind and our body and our soul, really spending time with ourselves, meditating, prayer, journaling, getting reflective. All those things are super important, part of a daily routine. I also like to add in cold water therapy, either cold showers, cold plunges. I think those are very beneficial. Getting out in nature, spending time with nature, spending time with your loved ones, listening to music, being creative. That releases a lot of dopamine when we get really creative. We need to be able to be free. And if we're doing the same old mundane things day after day, we're not fueling ourselves with our food, with exercise, with plenty of water, with, cold water therapy, like I said, and journaling and meditation and prayer and visualizing and affirmations and all the things that really benefit us, we're not giving ourselves a really good opportunity to shine and feel as though we're living. There's a huge difference between existing and living. When you're existing and your life is dull and you're in the same mundane life, you are in a gray area for sure, right? And so I don't want anyone to live in a gray area. I was in a gray area, many gray areas, my marriage, my health, my relationship with alcohol, all gray areas for me. Once I moved out of those gray areas, my life turned into full, vivid color. You become intensely alive. There's a reason why you want to get out of bed in the morning. You have the passion, you have the energy. You feel great. You feel intensely alive. You're not just existing. When we exist, we're not living. We're not living. So there's a big difference. Look at my dog. Y'all see my dog going nuts. But anyway, it's really important for us to feel as though we're living. We're not just here to exist.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
I would also like to touch one last topic with you, and that is how to build a habit that leads us to success.
Yes. Well, I just gave you a bunch of examples on habits that are really good, eating clean, not drinking, avoiding all those things, but also being intentional. There's one thing I want to have the listeners lead with today is to be intentional with everything you do. I have this part of one of my program or in my curriculum is intentions versus goals. We all love goals, right? We want to set goals. We have Q4 goals and, we have all these goals. I'm not opposed to goals, but goals are future-based. Intentions are present-based and they're micro wins. So when we live a very intentional life, we are making significant progress. It's like rings of a ladder. When we have intentions and we meet those intentions, we're climbing that ladder steady and we reach the top in a very consistent manner. And we're bringing awareness to those intentions. When we have awareness around our intentions, we have a place to go that gets us to the goals. But if we focus only on the goals, we're not going to get there. We have to stay uber focused on what our intentions are to reach those goals. So I focus so much on intentional living. What we do every single day matters. And a good way to do this is think about your day for tomorrow. For example, like before you go to bed tonight, what do you have planned? Are you going to go work out? If you are, you can be intentional by laying out your gym clothes so you see them first thing in the morning. So that becomes another habit for you to produce inside your mind. Oh, yes, I'm going to the gym tomorrow morning. And when the alarm goes off, you're going to get out of bed. Maybe another intention is to drink more water. So you have a full glass of water waiting for you when you wake up in the morning. Those are things to be very intentional. Not looking at your phone before you go to bed or when you wake up in the morning. That's being intentional. Because once you look at your phone first thing in the morning, you give all of your power away to what's on the other side of that phone, the email, the social media, the text message from the ex or whatever, right? You give all your attention to that and that sets the tone for your day. No, you want to be intentional with your time, with your deliberate existence here on this planet. You want every moment to count. You want to be present and you want to be in the moment. And when you are intentional with your day and your time and your energy, you will get better results. And that's really, really huge. So that's my biggest message is be intentional. Don't go through life willy-nilly. When you become intentional, your whole life changes.
Okay. How long does it take, according to you? Because there are many different opinions. The shortest one is 21 days and the longest one is 3 years. How long does it take to establish a new habit in your life?
Yes. Minimum is 63 to 66 days. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it can take longer than that. And here's why. We build new neural pathways in our brain when we create a new habit. I love Robin Sharma. If anybody's familiar with Robin Sharma, he wrote the book, The 5 a.m. Club. And he talks about these 3 sections of kind of that we go through: the first 21 to 23 days, the second 21 to 23 days, and the third set of 21 to 23 days. In the first 21 days or so, we're learning how to establish that new habit, right? We're breaking an old habit or we're creating a new habit. And it takes time for that to happen. And it can feel hard. You're not used to it. But once you get to that 21 days, now you're getting in a rhythm. The second 21 or 23 days is all about your brain's going, oh, you've done this long enough. You don't need to do this today. You can skip it. And when it gets messy in that second half, we want to know that this consistency is what leads to big results. So we got to plow through it It's not white knuckling. It's going back to your intentions. It's going back to the reason why you wanted to make the change in the first place. Putting that constantly in front of you is what creates the momentum and the change. And you need momentum here. This is part of like, you break 1 or 2 days, you're losing momentum quick. So the key here is consistency. And the next 21 to 23 days is all about just solidifying that new neural pathway of habits inside your brain where it becomes automatic. That's exactly what a habit is. Our brain wants to survive, not just thrive. So when we learn a new habit, it becomes automated. So we don't always have to think about it. Think about a habit you do now. You don't have to think it through consciously. You just do it unconsciously. It's something that you have competence in that's unconscious. So we call that unconscious competence. So you don't have to overthink it. Well, that's what happens with the habit. Eventually, it just becomes who you are, which is a huge piece, right? Because your identity plays a huge part in your behaviors. So what you believe about yourself shows outwardly with your behaviors, and your behaviors are your habits. So all this goes hand in hand. And I got my little thumb up now. I love it. My little reaction. So yeah, that all happens when you play all this together. And that's really, really key. So to answer your question, I know it was a long way of saying it. In my world, it's a minimum of 63 to 66 days. For some habits, like drinking, like giving up alcohol, yeah, by 3 months in, you pretty much got it under control. But I will tell you, for some people, it can take up to 18 months before you to really create these neural pathways that are like driving the show on a continual basis. It can take that long to really change your thought patterns, change the way you feel about them. So it can take up to 1.5 years. And that's my opinion. That's what I've experienced for myself and in my clients. It can't, for some people, it can take that long. Others, it's really quick.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like our listeners to take from this interview? Any quick tips or trade secrets that you can share?
Yes, I want to share the DECIDE model of change. This is my own methodology that I created that I think you're starting to reference with the trans-theoretical model. The DECIDE model of change, it's an acronym. It's really easy to remember. So the D is having the desire to want to make the change. You got to start with a desire. It can't be a wishy-washy thing. It has to be a strong desire. The next is the E, exploring your why. It's not just finding a why. It's exploring why this is so important to you. What is that why? What is the driving force behind it? It's usually something of deep value, your health, a relationship, financial reason. There has to be something of deep value there. So exploring what that reason is crucial to your success, because that's going to be the thing that you go back to every single time, especially when you feel like you're getting knocked off. You want to re-examine what that why was. So you got to explore what that why is. The C is having the commitment to self. You got to be committed to the commitment. If you leave a back door open that you can slither out like, oh, if it doesn't work out, then no big deal. You're going to fail right out of the gate. You got to be committed to the commitment. The I is to have an identity shift. Know that you will need to empower and take on a new identity. Be willing to take on a new identity. Without an identity shift happening, you're not going to do it. And that starts with a decision, which is why we call this the DECIDE model of change. We're making a new decision here. So having an identity shift is huge. The second D is daily habits. We've already covered it. Daily habits are key to your success. They're key to your long-term success. What you do every day matters. And the last E is everyday effort equals expansion. What you do consistently, this is about consistent effort, everyday effort. And when you put all this together, you will expand as a person. You will expand on who you are, and you will be able to make that long-lasting change in which you are desiring. So if you are in a place right now in your life that you don't like, examine it, question it, understand why you're doing it, why this is not working for you, then make the decision by using the DECIDE model And you can move through that change with so much more ease and success. And it's also recommended and helpful for you to do it with someone, whether that's you hire a coach and you invest into yourself, or you work with somebody, or you confide in somebody that is non-biased that can help you through it. You hire a trainer if it's a gym, or you want to lose weight. You find somebody that can help partner with you to make this happen. We all need the accountability. And when you pair those two together, success will happen, and you will move out of those gray areas, and you will have a life in full color.
Thank you for that elaborate answer. I will put links where listeners can reach you in the description below. And thank you, Kari, for being my guest tonight.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me on. It's been so much fun. I hope the listeners found it to be helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Faleskini, for this outstanding podcast. And thank you for listening to the Ask Faleskini podcast until the end. Mr. Faleskini would love to hear your feedback in the comments. And don't forget, if you want to know, ask Faleskini or listen to the Ask Faleskini podcast. In order to please the almighty algorithm, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.